Hello, beautiful divine beings and cosmic souls. I'm Maya Starfire, and welcome to Echoes Beyond the Veil. I would like to give a big thank you to everyone who's watching the live stream and to anyone who's going to watch the recording afterwards. I've asked an incredible soul to be my guest tonight who embodies the meaning of free spirit, sovereignty, and divine feminine energy all in one. I would like to introduce you to my guest, Susie. Susie has been walking and living the spiritual path for over 50 years, living her life through intuition and intentional awareness. She has a double doctorate in metaphysical science and divinity. She has also been a dedicated New Thought minister for many years. She's traveled and lived in many places across America and abroad, staying connected to Mother Earth in her love of humanity, collective consciousness, community, and spiritual connection. Once almost paralyzed in her neck and arms permanently from a surfing accident, was then able to heal herself by using the energy from the earth, from barefoot grounding and spiritual practice to heal herself and completely recover her ability to walk and move again. She is a talented singer, songwriter, and musician who has a passion for performing and radiating love through the frequency of wisdom and compassion. She is currently living in the middle of a jungle on one of the islands of Hawaii. If you're going to be off grid and homesteading, what better place than the remaining lands of ancient Lemuria? There is so much more to this incredible soul that I could ever imagine trying to explain in simple bio, but we're going to hear a little bit more about her today. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, Susie.
Yay.
Susie, Susie is going to start the show off by playing us a little bit music first. So take it away.
Okie These are a couple of songs for co-wrote. Ring for has now come morning and weeping. Be cast away, created new as we speak for truth. Forward pressing that stand in our way and rejoice as we see them fall. And we lift up our eyes, behold a new day where we live by the stars. Oh, rejoice, for the truth's now come down and loosed and set us all free. We left all behind, for the truth has now come that has created our purity. Bring down the faith that contains the new age and displaces the visions of yesterday. New expectations are filling our hearts, for we are pressing into the new day. And we shout at the walls that stand in our way. We rejoice as we see them fall. And we lift up our eyes, beholding where we live by the starseed call. Where we live by the starseed call. Yay! Now I'm going to play one piano song.
Okay, perfect.
Yay!
So lovely. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Isn't my rainforest gorgeous here? I live in a little screened-in hut, and it's screened all the way around 16 feet, and it's just jungle everywhere. So I'll share that a little bit later. I find light like the rays of color coming to my sight. After sleeping through a long and endless night. There's something so new that's coming through you. It's made the past become. Oh, and when I'm in your presence, I feel blessed. You rarely put me to the test. Oh, I grow so quiet when I'm beside you. You always make me feel my best. Oh, I found you, and I made a choice of what I want to do. You see, we gave up all the lesser for the true. We all made that sacrifice for what we know is right. And now we have the strength to see it through. We find light.
Yay! Good job. Great job. Thank you so much. Oh
Oh,
my
thank you.
goodness. Bear with me, everybody. This is a new platform, and I'm very new at all of this. So, if I seem a little rusty, I am. So, so Susie, would you like to start off telling people about where you live right now? I think that that's probably
Yeah, let me see if I can.
nice to start.
This is jungle. That's my other guitar. Jungle all the way around. And it's, I have running water. I'm living in a 20-acre, I think they call it a conscious community. I call it somewhat conscious or occasionally conscious. We try hard. But and there's about between 20 and 30 people here, and there's a whole bunch. I live next to a hut with 4 double beds for females, and then there's one for male, and then there's ones that are, thems and things. It's quite, and everything's organic. I have avocados hit my roof, and guavas and passion fruits, and there's fruit forever. And it's really kind of a cool existence in that if you have energy to work, they call it land dance, and you can live here for $100 a month if you do 20 hours a week of land dance, which is, cooking or cleaning or picking pineapples or, et cetera, et cetera. And I retired from a lot of land dance because it was just too much for me. But I'm here at 22 and I'm having a ball. I might not live here forever, but it's really fun for now. It's very rugged though. I'm 75. I don't know. It is a lot. It's a lot living in the rough like this. One day they picked out 169 spiders. They're all nothing poisonous, but they're spiders. And I have rats, mongoose. I did have a rat. And one time, I heard my guitar, which was hanging up. I heard it playing music in the middle of the night, and I didn't know what was happening. I turned on the light, and a rat was going up the arm of the guitar.
The rat was
But it
playing
came
your
in and
guitar.
crawling up the arm, so the music was coming out of it. It was pretty crazy. I thought it was a ghost or something, but it's there's two kitchens, and each kitchen has about 8 kitties. And one of the kitties I'm way far from the kitchen, but one of the kitties just moved in with me, and she takes care of she sleeps right here on my chest, and she comforts me and purrs me to sleep. She's my little baby. But yeah,
It's so
it's
amazing
quite,
that you're able. It's so
yeah,
amazing that you're able to live among the wild, and even though they're rats, it's still there. You still
Well,
have
well,
uh,
yeah,
nature around you.
and uh,
Oh, no.
we have mongoose and a good ceiling with a 8 by 16 foot sky, a tarp over. I was getting sunburned through my. I broke my up and down the trail easily right now, but I just have a staff, and it's about 10 minutes to the next hut and 7 minutes to a kitchen. It's fun. We have 3 or 4 meetings a week. I quit going to some of those because I had so much going on. So, but it's fun. It's quite spectacular. Uh, right now, it's very quiet, but usually we have these things called coqui frogs, and they're
Mhm.
they're really loud. Sometimes I can't hear the phones because the rain or the coqui frogs are so loud. So it's fun. And I do have internet most of the time. It's been raining really badly for the last 32 days. I think we're getting some of that man-made weather. And so the internet's been really challenged. And I was without electric for 7 days and without running water for 5 days. Just what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of living people keep talking about wanting to do more of, right? So it
Yeah,
is rougher, but what you get back is the healing from nature and just being submersed in everything authentic, and being away
yep,
from all the electricity and all the other cred that they pour
yep,
into it. So it's amazing, and I do hope that more people start to do it. Um,
yeah.
so I would like to start talking about your healing journey. Let's get into how you got injured. It was a surfing accident, and
Well,
then what you did.
it was a surfing accident physically, but
Mhm.
before that, I had these spiritual guides tell me that could say that there was going to be a betrayal, and there was an axe in my back, and that was 3 months before. And I said, "What is that about?" And they said, I was in a group, and they said the authority over you is going to betray you. And I said, "Well, I'm a woman. I'm on the front row. Betrayal kind of comes with the." And they said, "No, this is going to be big." And what happened was I caught a wave with a dolphin. I was surfing, and a dolphin changed my life. On my, she was, we were all the way in, and then it was so exhilarating. And this sounds funny, but she changed everything for me. I was supervising international law firms in Los Angeles, and it happened 3 rows out to surf. And, a rogue wave is 20 to 30 feet, and usually you just get. I got 3 in a row, and they found me unconscious on the beach with this part of me injured that they had seen the axe. And I was 28 years like that. And the first 18 years, and I'm writing a book about all this. I'm so excited because I'm finally writing, because people have been saying, "You got to write a book, you got to write a book." And I'm finally doing that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so even though it was a very rough time, it did take me out of where I was and put me in a much, much healthier spiritual place. Because even supervising international law firms was, attention was spiritual. And in my death experience, it was so huge that, yeah, so I healed myself. As for 18 years, I was always organic. I always eat right and stuff. And somebody one medication, and I was like, no, never. And he said, look, there's really some help and healing in the earth. Why don't you get on the medication? You can't get help from a bed position, because I was in excruciating pain. My arms didn't work and my neck. And I finally did get on the medication after 18 years. The last 10 years, I had 3 6-hour days that I could function somewhat, and I did it. We went all over the country and finding something, and I did. I went to a bunch of ceremonies and stuff with the template up in Berkeley and Oakland and stuff, And I just knew I was going to heal, and I didn't. And so I was laying on the grass up in Mount Shasta, and somebody came up. He had a big turban on, and she had long red hair. Watch get sheets and stuff because I didn't understand it, but the video, the guy up in Alaska, he heals his whole town. I think it's earthing or grounding. You should look it up. It's definitely cool. And he heals his whole town. And I was on vacation, so I just started going barefoot and went down to Oceanside, and from Mount Shasta went to Oceanside for a month. And I was sitting in the jacuzzi and I went, I'm not in pain. So I quit all my pain medication and healed. I mean, and then I didn't even I was on vacation, so I couldn't get the sheets. To this day, I sleep on sheets that are that have silver in them, and I have grounding shoes. Normally you go barefoot, but here they have little pieces of lava that are real sharp, so the dirt doesn't wash away because of all the rain. And so I can't go barefoot here, but I just wear these grounding shoes, grounding blankets, big things. So yeah, I'm healed. I'm grounded.
Well, that's
so
because
my mom childhood was, see, you're grown. Yeah. Yeah.
But grounded in the best way possible, though, you know? Like,
yeah. And I used to just have dreams of being able to maybe piano or something to be able to play it a little bit because I just couldn't function. I did get so bored, and I couldn't lift up books. And but a couple of I was studying a lot, and one of my professors said, "You've got so much work in. Why don't you finish and get a doctorate?" And I said, "Who cares? You know, I was just crippled in bed, you know." But I listened to 1,397 Audible books, and I finished a double doctorate. I just was so bored, and I figured out a piece of plastic plexiglass that I could put from being down, but I'm a bunch of good stuff happened. I sure studied a lot during that time, you know.
well, yeah, you got this incredible doctorate or double doctorates. You got, you used your time wisely, and I can't say that there's many people that would have done the same thing, especially in the times we live in today, you know. So it's really an incredible story, and it's one of those things that, yeah, this really hard time, this really awful thing that happened turned into like probably the most beautiful thing that could have happened to you, right? I mean, so that's amazing.
I don't know too many people that are this excited about being able to play piano and sing because it was taken from me, you know. And then once it was given back, it was like, yay, I get to sing. And so I'm somehow when we stuff like that, I just sit in my guitar. I mean, sing. I've got 4 drums here, making some sort of a tune. Something, it always keeps me going.
When did you start playing music and singing?
Okay, that's a really funny because when I was in the 3rd grade, went through 3 John Thompson's books, and my teacher said I was gifted, but once I had the left hand, I said, forget it. It was too hard. And the same in my death experience. And when I had my death experience, I heard this sound, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know whether they were angels or dead guys, but I saw these bees making this sound, and so beautiful. And it was this music. And the thing that came to me is, you know, in Revelations, it says something about the sound of many waters. And so I could hear this. And so I got in this group after my death experience. Gandhi went through and kind of put his hands you could see through him, and I had to look. He was dead by now, but and then the next day, uh, and I had been through 8 days of no food, no no anything, because I was so traumatized by my death experience. No, came through, and the next day I met my master teacher, and I've been really guided. So and then the teacher said, "Made musicians." And once I heard that, I tuned into that sound, and I used to just go sit by musicians and say, "Can I sit next to you?" And I would just draw their gift into me. And I practiced, but I knew it was a gift, and I'm pretty sure the way it came through. I'm pretty sure I must have had been a musician in past lives, because once it came through, it was just very simple for me. In fact, I was sent to this place where there was 3 feet of snow, and she had a piano, but I didn't know how to play the piano except for my third grade little. And so, but I knew a little bit about the guitar, so I pretended like the piano was a guitar, and I figured out this whole chord chart. I thought I invented, you know, pretty soon I looked in the piano bench. There was a chord chart in there, but it's really, music is it's really, I try to that sound that I heard for whenever I sing, right, play or sing.
So you learned by like osmosis almost in a way, just by being around it. That is a gift, and I guarantee you were musical in many past lives. If you were just able, I mean, you play beautifully and sing beautifully now. I could
Yeah,
barely sing in the shower, you know. So it's amazing that you get to share this, because music is so healing. So I believe, anyways. I think
yeah,
music carries a lot of healing just on its own, and being the person that you are makes it that much more powerful. So yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. You mentioned your near death experience. Do you want to tell everybody about one or both of those?
Well, I had one when I was 18, and that much was everybody. Now I had to wait 10 years to be able to talk about it, but everybody goes, "Oh, I saw Jesus," or "I saw Buddha." And, oh, it was not me, man. It was rough. I saw my body die, and I said, "Well, if that's my body, what's this?" And I was so young, and I resisted a lot. In fact, I think the resistance that I had caused me to experience what I believe was hell, because I wanted to be back in my body so I could force it, and I'd force it, but then I'd experience this awful, awful, awful stuff. And yeah, it was. It really did shift, like every thought, everything. And once I found a master teacher that could teach me, I was okay. But I spent 8 months just listening to tapes and just trying to understand, because it was very traumatic. I wish, I did feel the tunnel, and I felt the love, and I felt the peace. I also had, there was so much on me dealing, and I kind of, like, I would leave the piece to try to go help somebody, and if I had help and warning in my body, then I could do it. But if I didn't, it was pure hell, so. And then when I went through this betrayal later, 18 years later, I had another death experience, and it was very different. But it was, and I saw this I was in a throne, and I just assumed that, I kind of thought the Lord back then, I thought it was the throne, the Lord on the throne. I was kind of brainwashed like that. And but I was very far away from the throne, and it really bothered me. And I learned that how infinitesimal I could allow myself to be, that would make me closer to the throne. And so I could somehow humble and become nothing. And that there's a scripture that says, when your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with light. And somehow I was like seeing this light and like my body and on my and bumble, and pretty soon I became an eyeball, which was very weird. And pretty soon but then I was thrown, and I said, wow, touch it. I'm really going to be pissed off for probably the rest of my life. And I don't want to have to go through that. So I reached out, and as I touched what I thought was the throne or the thigh of the Lord or whatever, I became that light. So it was like I was one with the light. I wasn't any different, but I had to really learn how to be humble. I mean, infinitesimal. When I got with Sperry, he said, well, you do know that you're nothing, right? And I said, yeah, my teacher taught me to be a zero with the rim rubbed out. So yeah, so infinitesimal makes us closest to God, because I don't know how it works, but it does work.
Have you thought maybe
like that.
Have you thought maybe since there was a throne
Ooh.
there and you turned into an eyeball that
There's a
you
delay?
maybe somehow I think so. Sorry. Maybe somehow you turned into a seraphim because they were said to guard the thrones. And since you turned into an eyeball, that's immediately where my brain went.
Wow. I'll tell you, it was quite amazing experiencing it, because I really did become an eyeball. I could see, but then I became blind. The light was bright. I became blind, but I was still experiencing sight. I mean, it was quite, and I couldn't talk about it. If I would have talked about it, they would have put me in the loony bin, because they weren't talking about near-death experiences back then. This was 58 years ago, and then 18 years. 58 years ago, my first one, and then 18 years after that. So when I was 18, and then when I was 36.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, you couldn't talk about that 58 years ago for sure. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you held up. I'm glad you held up for now. You might have had a way different experience after that. So, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell anyone how you died or had the experience, how it led up to the NDE, or do you want to leave that private? I'm a little curious, do that, so maybe
it was very. Yeah, it was quite weird, because I didn't know that I was doing what I was doing. I had been invited to, and I was just a little hippie kid. I had my first degree, got out of high school early, and I finished a fashion design degree before my death experience. And these people had invited me and my little girlfriend to their house for dinner. And most of the hippies were vegetarians then. So they handed me a great big salad bowl. That was my salad. And in the salad was these little wooden roses. They were about, 3/4 of an inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch. And they had 4 little petals. They were just cute little wooden roses. And they said, oh, these are edibles. And so nobody instructed me. And everybody had, inside of these wooden roses were this pure LSD 26. So everybody there knew what they were doing except for me. And they ate their little, and they had 4 or 5 of these seeds that were inside of these little wooden roses. I didn't. I had like 13, 14. I was just eating my salad. I didn't know. Like in pale or ayahuasca, and then you get high. Well, everybody else puked and got high, and I didn't puke. I died because I got too much of the poison in me. It was a poison, and it was too much for me to puke it out. So then I saw me die, and I went, oh, and it wasn't fun, It was like, I didn't want to be dead. I was young, and I argued. Of course, I just was, but I would be in the cosmos, and I could surrender. It was kind of like Star Trek, The New Generations, when you're going through and the stars are coming like this, only much slower.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Oh no. I can see
and
her. She's still
it
there.
would be coming through, and hope, and Jesus, because I didn't have much religious training as a kid, but that mom would take us once in a while on Christmas or Easter or something, and I heard Jesus loves me, this I know, and that stuck to me because otherwise I was lost. I knew at least Jesus loved me. And then the funny thing is, it lasted 12 hours. They had called the coroner. I mean, these people were high
Oh
on
my
this LSD, and it was such a crazy time. And then after, and I was able to be in my body twice if I warned them, the kids that I was having the salad with, if I warned them what I was experiencing when I was soaring through the cosmos. One time I went, oh my God, these
mm,
guys know God is love. God really is love. I'd say, you know, and they're like, yeah, we traded that they weren't getting it. And then it happened one other time. I wanted to warn them that I was so aware that it was forever and ever and ever. I mean, forever, that we were soaring through the cosmos. We were going to do this forever. And it was just like I needed to warn them because hippies, I felt like we were, joking around. Or, I mean, we were serious, but it didn't feel like we were serious as what I was experiencing. And so I
mhm.
got to be in my body again, and I warned them. I said forever and ever, and they didn't get it. So I got frustrated and would just go back to the cosmos. And then, interestingly enough, after 12 hours, the funniest thing happened. I thought this was forever, that I would never be in my body again. And all of a sudden, I had to go potty. And I'm like, wait, I'm
How?
dead. And I wasn't dead after 12 hours. So,
You-
but boy, everything changed. I mean,
Um,
whew, every
well,
thought.
you clearly needed to go through that and become the person you are, and it definitely wasn't your time because you're still here doing the amazing
Yeah.
stuff that you do. So yeah, I imagine flying through the cosmos like that. I don't know that I'd want to come back, but maybe if I was young, I don't know. I kind of
Well,
fantasize about
I
that.
had the book. It's really funny because you're stuck in the cosmos and you're cherished far alone. And I was so young, and I would think about, oh, my mom is overdone drugs. I didn't know it was a drug. I her face because I stayed in the tree. And so I had a, I I had believe in me, we thought money, and I had money on me, and I was so ashamed. I mean, those are the things. And so I would want to come and be in my body and fix things, but you couldn't fix them. So there was a struggle. And finally, when I would just finally surrender, then somehow after surrendering for 12 hours, I got to be in here. And I have never been in that warning and loving and what I expect. Never. It's shifting. I'm just a hollow shell with all of what I expect coming through because everything changed. Everything. It was quite
I
amazing.
think that's important. I think, yeah, it is. I think it's important that a lot of us get that clean slate and that higher perspective on life, especially when we're young and worried about some of the quite silly things that we worry about when we're younger. So, yeah, I think a lot of us go through
Yeah.
very similar situations where, oh my God, something shakes you up. Be like, you're not quite where you need to be. Let's course correct right away. So that's amazing. Um, so I want to talk about your connections because you mentioned it earlier in your conversation about the connections to spirits and seeing spirits, um, like being able to see the ghosts or spirit forms. And
Yeah.
me and you have talked behind the scenes
Yeah.
about
I've had that.
masters.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have three master teachers. Actually, four of them I didn't like. I learned, but he was kind of a jerk. So he dead too. But the other three are now dead. And Sperry was one of them. Sperry, I moved here to be with Sperry. He proposed to me. I found him on Gaia TV. Quite amazing man, a physicist. And he ended up taking his life. He told me he gave his life. He never had been a human before. This was his first human incarnation. He came directly from the eighth dimension, which some people will understand, some people won't. But once he died, I mean, being 75 years old, you grieve, you know. A third of my classmates or stuff, but this was like my soul was pulled out of me. This was something that because I knew he had taught me how to be, I knew how to be one with a person, but I had said no to 43 marriage proposals because men would cut off my top chakra. So I've been alone, you know. I would try, but when and one guy died a couple of ago, and he was very how they live in my hut over here. There's like four of them, and they give me downloads. And I've had this gift, like my aunt died, and I had been away from her for like 40 years, and I saw her at a family reunion, and oh, it was so nice seeing her, and blah blah. And then she died, and she was very confused, and I sat up in bed, and somehow I was in the dimension where she was, and I've been there a bunch now, and I just go, well, I'm here, so whatever you need me for, I surrender to be used. However, and she was very confused. I knew it was her, and there were three light beings over in the distance. One of them was her son, Tommy, who had been unplugged, was her best friend, and they had to unplug him from life support when he was 40. And so I knew it was Tommy. I took her, and I reunited them. Everybody was happy. They went around, and then I found myself back in my bed. And the next morning, everybody
Oh, wow.
like that. Barry's here. John's here. Jerry. But and he's been dead a long time. Download so that because I think we're getting ready for some real huge experiences here on the planet. I think our frequencies are really getting ready to shift. And I have gone through a
I
lot
agree.
with, yeah. So I think so I'm at downloads to be able to go through this next big step because I am pooped. This was a big one, you know. I don't, you know, after
Yeah.
5 months, somebody told me that grieving was sacred. And I said, well, I hope so. But, you know, you just, grief to me was like something that just took over me. It had its way with me. Now I went through a couple of months of really being angry. You know, I have the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross book, and I would wake up and just say, fuck you, Sperry, and fuck, you know, and I'd cuss and excuse me for the show, but,
Oh, no
but
worries. Anything goes here. You're fine.
okay, good. And somehow upset like that helped release me, and now I'm not grieving quite so much. But yeah, it's been pretty hard, you know,
I think
pretty hard.
our friend Susan would call that sacred rage, right? Isn't that what she called it the other day? I don't know. I probably shouldn't be talking about what she says, which is not here, but she probably won't get mad about that. But yeah, I think it's important to get mad sometimes. You got to let that out. It's important to let anger out and not let it fester and turn into something. There's a delay. Oh no.
Yeah, it's a big delay.
Okay. You're back now. Sorry. She is in the middle of a jungle. So, we're lucky we get to see her and have her at all. So thank you so much. You
Yeah,
guys wouldn't believe the amount of craziness we had to go through. I think we met up three different times trying to on the phone with computer techs. I had to change the platform. I really, really, really wanted to get her on here to play and introduce you to everybody. So I'm
I
glad that
think
it
we've
worked
changed
out.
platforms 3 times.
Yeah. Well, we didn't
Yeah.
go to Zoom.
I
I
think we
didn't want
just,
to have to. Yeah,
oh,
I didn't want to have to pay for it. But
because, yeah.
anyways, so the downloads and the spirits, I think that sometimes we are put in situations where we experience several deaths in a period of time so that we have that extra spiritual protection and guidance. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I do. I think also, I think we're going through it as spiritual leaders. I think we go through it so that humanity doesn't have to go through it quite so much. I think we have, I mean, I just don't see a lot of people in the regular dimensions that want to go through what we've gone through. The spiritual people that I know have really had a very difficult life. Even, I mean, if you ask me, if you just walked up to me and said, Susie, how's your life been? I'd say, oh my God, my life's been amazing, tremendous. But I've also
Right.
done 40 years of shadow work, including 10 years with Teal Swan, and she's ruthless. You know, I have had to really work at processing all the stuff, you know, because, yeah, life has not been that. The shadow stuff, that's not that fun. You know, it's fun getting free. It's fun understanding and learning to love yourself in areas that we couldn't before. But yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes I refer to us as like these filters for humanity. I don't know if that makes any sense, but sometimes I feel like a lot of us here doing these spiritual things
Yeah,
and kind of the front line. I feel like we are the filters for the regular normal people a lot of the time.
I had 3 readings where people said, God, it's like you're called on to experience betrayal and abandonment for humanity. And I go, oh, how fun. What a nice calling.
You're like, was this in the contract?
Yeah,
Yeah. So, is there any
really.
downloads that you want to share with anybody that you've gotten
Really.
anytime recently?
Like when
Uh-oh.
Whitney Houston died, I said, hey, if you're perfect, you know.
Wouldn't that be nice? I'm waiting for the day for all my gifts, even from past lives, to return, like the ability to fly and
Yeah,
shoot plasma out my hands, all those other really,
yeah.
really woo woo things. But um, you want to tell us a little bit more about what your doctorates are in? Because I know it's a metaphysical science, but could you give us a little breakdown on what that is?
Well, let me tell you the first because uh, Sperry would say to me, wow, you have a doctorate in divinity, but you don't believe in any religion. And I said, that's true. Because I had to like study so much about all religions and all the traditions. And I did on purpose because I just didn't believe in the um, Jesus is the only name whereby I think all that's a crock of shit. You know, I don't think there's one person. In fact, Teal Swan, she was born without filters. And she can see, she said she sees Jesus, I call him Yeshua. She sees him walking around all the time and he's walking with Buddha and they're always laughing. I mean, we don't think like that. But I actually, my first master teacher said, we have to have it as science rather than just religion. In fact, the Theoba Prophecy, The Golden Planet, it's a new book I just got. They actually say the third thing that's keeping the planet from ascending is religion, because it's keeping people thinking, oh, God's going to do it for me. And look at all the wars. My God's bigger than your God. And in fact, every war, everything. And it's just like, if we don't understand and learn that we are this, had to learn with physics the science of what we're doing spiritually. And that's where Sperry came in really good. He was on Gaia TV a couple of times, and David Wilcox was interviewing him, and I just kept, his work was so brilliant, and I did understand, and I know humanity won't probably do this, but I did understand the physics. Once you understand that the fourth dimension has a point in it, carries all of the points in the third dimension, and you learn the physics of that, which is really hard. I have to say, slow down, talk slower. But once I could slow my mind down and get it, it was like, oh my God, understanding it gave me the ability to be in that frequency, in that dimension. So it was very, so the science is like understanding the difference between the third dimension, the fourth dimension, the fifth dimension, and how we have to have it in the physical, or it's all just going to be woo-woo. I just, boyfriend once and every I'd fall asleep, but that totally changed, because to me, it's like the science of what's happening, and even the science of our ascension and what's happening as our bodies are changing, and we're learning how to have our light bodies within us. I'm trying to get my light body to live 100%. And you have all these gifts, and a lot of us have come into a lot already. I mean, I look at some of these young people. You were talking to me saying, oh, Susie, you've done this for 58 years. And then I look at some of these kids that are coming through, and they're 20, and they have all these gifts, and it's just different. It's really, really different. I'm grateful that young people are getting it so fast, and there seems to be a stability that some of the older of us can help stabilize the young people as they're, but there's some gifts on the planet that are absolutely amazing. I'm very, very thrilled with what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. And not only are people, younger people, and even the older people like us are, obtaining things quicker. Like I had some of my gifts ramp up and begin and come in much quicker than I would have imagined, from the time I even started diving into them now. But I believe that the babies are coming in with sight and gifts like right away.
Yeah.
Too. I think that's a much more common thing.
Yes.
And I'm not too sure if that's a change in the Earth's frequency, or where we are as far as a whole collective, or if that's because more of us are open to it and not, squashing it. And the children tell you stories about fairies and spirits, and it's not like no.
Yeah.
Now more of us are like, okay, tell me more. So what do you think about that?
Well, I made these big fish pillows for the place here. They're great big pillows with great big eyeballs, and somebody saw them. She said, oh, I want one for my granddaughter. And I said, okay, cool. And I decided, I made these with just one side. They're a pillow, and they have a guy and big lid and stuff. But I did, for this little girl, I wanted to be able to have one of her sides of her fish so she can be angry instead of stuffing it, because as children we were not allowed to express ourselves. I mean, my daddy beat me till I was unconscious, and my mom was standing there saying, Dick, you're killing her. So as a tiny little toddler, I thought my dad was killing me. I thought I was dying. I mean, it was terrifying. and if I had something to relate to, but the more I expressed, the more trouble I got. So you just learn to restrain. And I have Teal Swan talks about the inner children we create within. It's not just one, but, and she said some people have 1,000. She said almost everybody has 22 alternate personalities. She said the whole planet has multiple personality disorder. Sperry used to say that too. But I say, there once was a woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many inner children, she didn't know what to do. And I've named them. I journal with them. I'm writing about them. They have taught me so much about why I had to create them. I, I, I mean, we are amazing beings that as conscious, and our unconscious is very, very faithful to bring back situations and to clear that emotion. If we've got emotion or whatever, got to feel what that infant, what felt as an infant, but we couldn't, and instead we created a personality until we actually get that personality to love and trust our adults so much that they integrate. And then as adults, we become stronger because we've actually been separated. It's kind of like on the planet, we're separated from each other. We're separated from each inside of us, all of our little inner children, because we had to go. Somebody asked Teal Swan, she says, how do you get so much done in a day? She says, well, in the morning, she said, I have a canoe. And she says, I get all of my personalities to go in the same direction. If I have 3 go in one direction and 3 paddle in the other direction, the canoe just goes in a circle.
Yeah, that's a good point. I
So she says, I get all of my personality because my inner child will let me practice. you know so, and I love it used to, I don't think Disney gives that much of a, all the girls have big boobs and tiny waists and they all need to be rescued, by the knight in shining armor. But nowadays, Phil Collins and Elton John, they're writing the songs, and so there's way more meaning than just a damsel in distress and getting her. Although, I wouldn't mind a knight in shining armor. I could use some help.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that sometimes too, but then you've got to deal with the rest of it that comes with the knight in shining armor. It's not always shiny. So
Yeah,
I wonder if breaking off, and because it's fragmentation basically, but it's of the inner child. So, but that makes me think of multidimensionality. So maybe this process that is innately bad can give us a better perspective on our multidimensionality too, though. If we have all these different aspects of ourselves, then we can relate to being different places and different people at the same time. So that's really interesting. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so, oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. You had mentioned an experience with. First, let's talk about your trip to Shasta. I think that's a very interesting story and what happened to you there, and then maybe you can go into the beings you saw or being you saw.
Um, I didn't hear you. That you, I heard the word that you wanted me to talk about went funny, so I didn't hear what you want me to talk
Oh,
about.
your experience in Shasta with
Oh
the
yes. Oh,
yeah.
that was great. Yeah, yeah. So I was gonna go up to my mate of 17 years got Alzheimer's really bad, and it was during COVID, and he got very abusive, and so he went to live with his son, and I just felt like I needed to. I had done 20 years of boats and years of RV, had been, in a lot of. So where am I? Let's see. So where am I? Help me, remind me where we are.
You were talking about your experience with RVs, and you were leading into
Oh
the
yeah.
Shasta trip.
So I couldn't drive. I couldn't drive the RV. It was a 36-foot with two slide outs, and so a guy that I knew that used to help me with my RV said, "I'll drive you if you just buy me a plane ticket." So he drove my big RV up there, and I was up there for about 8-9 days, and before it started snowing, and everything was great. Then I noticed that the guy that I paid hadn't fixed my heater, and I didn't have hot water. I had cold water, so what I did was I well, and then I got hacked computer, and my hack was the Chewbacca's coat. My puppy, it was just me and my little Yorkie poo. He was a service dog, and so I had to make him a coat. I found a little down blanket there. I am a seamstress, so I've sewn since I was 5 years old. I was on a sewing machine, but I had never sewn with feathers. Down has little feathers were everywhere. But I learned, and then I just every day it was like I said, "This is a vision quest. God, are you trying to kill us?" I mean, it was so difficult. There was snow. I couldn't see that well. The GPS wouldn't work, so I couldn't find anything. It was just, and then I felt I was there for like 3 months. 2 weeks before I was gonna leave, I felt the presence of this love, and it was. I mean, I just, my hands are burning just talking about it. I love that. There was just this. I was so cherished and loved, and it was like I could feel it. And I heard it was male that's come to help a sacred masculine on the planet. And I was just like feeling this love. And then he said, "There's going to be a man that's going to manifest this to you in the physical." And it wasn't a couple of weeks before I met Sperry, and Sperry was he's on a show that I was playing music. All these shows from. So Sperry did manifest that to me. It somehow was stolen and it wasn't complete, but I could feel the presence of that love. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, one time I had an experience where I said, "Wow, God really loves the word God," but for whatever. And then it was never not in the presence of this love that's focused on something that's not true. So it's like we are so loved, but we get our focus different. And that's what this was like with this Arcturian male. And he's been back several times, but right now I just draw the love. I don't really know. Right now I'm focused on these 4 guys that are dead, that are in my. I mean, they're not dead. They're dead. My focus coming death feels kind of like I've been for about 50 years, 43 years now. It feels like I've been supposed to take down the veil between the dead. When Larry died a few weeks ago and he's here, it's kind of like there's just a shift happening. We were genetically manipulated to where we only live this 80 to 100 years, and where some of the stuff that's happening to us, it's not our, we have much bigger rights to live longer and happier. And Nelia Benz, she's never been a human. She said, "This is our planet. We shouldn't have to go get a job to buy or to live in a place. the place, our planet. So we are taking over. There's shift in frequency as we're learning how to do it way. How'd I do on that one?
Good. So just in case anyone isn't aware of what this Octorian being came to, this male, was it a spiritual third eye vision, or was it a physical form of a being? Just for those people who may not understand.
Above my head, I could feel I couldn't feel him. His energy, I didn't feel a physicalness. I felt his energy, right. And the love was like physical. It was tangible. It wasn't like, I mean, it was like, oh my God, and you felt like, wow, if you could just live in that love, you'd never have any problems ever. So I keep saying, come on back, let's live in this love. Somebody wrote me a song about me once, saying living in your love, and that's what we need. We need to live in love so that our focus.
I agree. You bring up a really good point. If something doesn't feel good, if it makes you feel bad, then it's probably not the right thing for you, and it's definitely not living in love. That's how because sometimes things sound good or correct, and you start to think you're wrong again. But then I go back to all those years I spent feeling so wrong, so bad, the black sheep, that I like forgot about all the good stuff. So I think that's a really good part of discernment that we all need to practice but does it make you feel better? Does it improve your life? Or is it making it harder and more confusing? Then it's probably, not the path you should be focusing on. Anyways, that's just my
well, and I would say there's only one way that's not exactly right, and that's with shadow work. I mean, because sometimes you have to feel how icky it is so that you have to feel the emotion that you were not allowed to feel as an infant or a toddler. It's before you were 8 years old. Brain does one year things a little better, but I found out something that just blew my mind. I had an inner child that was coming to in a lot of work. I was in the hut next door, and she said, I am really your most angry personality. And I said, oh, and I was journaling with her. And by the way, if you want to journal with you and you want them to answer, if you write your left hand, your inner child a lot, that's, you were younger when they were, so your first grade writing helps them come through. But she said, I said, well, do you have a name?
I've heard that.
And she said, my name is Tara. And I said, well, I've never known a Tara. Oh, I've known one Tara when I was working in the law firms. And she was a pretty black girl. And I remember an attorney came in once and said, handed her some work. And the attorney left and she said, don't you just hate that? And I said, what? And she says, don't you just hate the way they treat us? And I said, I just think they're pretty much jerks. And I just let them do what they're going to do and get a good paycheck. And she said, oh, not me. She said, I pretend like she had all of her little paper clips there. And she took a few of them out and she said, straighten out all my bonds. The attorney so horrified that she's so angry. And she explained to me, I had just as much as she did. But the reason why she became an alternate personality in me was because I was in denial that I was that upset. Once I started really finding out how upset I am and learning the different ways to process your anger and how there's John Sarno, actually, Howard Stern healed his back this way. And I've done this several times. It takes a lot of focus, but he says if we're just aware of our unconscious rage, we can heal our physical bodies, because what we do is we make our physical bodies hurt because we don't want to feel how our emotions are in so much pain. But if we allow ourselves to feel some of the emotion, or at least accept that we are very upset, very, very, very enraged, and then that we can actually heal our body that way. His name's Sarno. I studied with him for years or so. Yeah, we have a lot of power. We just really have to. And the only reason why I said that is because sometimes we have to feel crappy before we can feel good, because we have to heal that part of us that just suppressed how true our true feelings really are. Then once you integrate, then there's this happiness that's free, because you're not half with this half person that won't integrate. Because and I've done 40, like I said, I started my inner child work with Louise Hayes 40 years ago or something. You can heal your child within, or something like that. And it's just like, when I first met my first inner child, she was so excited to meet me, because I the adult have really worked hard to get well. I mean, I have really worked all the spiritual stuff that I've just been balls to the wall. I have not had a passive day. I have had to learn how to take time off and rest, because I'm just so charged all the time.
Well, yeah, you bring up a couple of really
Yeah.
good points. I think when people do start to tap into their inner child is very excited to finally be uh, recognized. I think that that's a pretty common thing,
Yeah.
and I love dealing with the inner child, and letting my creativity kind of soar, and being goofy or dancing and singing, even though I have a terrible voice. I still belt it out outside where no one can hear me. But that's all very great. And the other thing you bring up is that suppressing the anger. That's just like the spiritual bypassing, where, oh, you're spiritual, you have to be happy and good all the time. Well, no, because then I'm going to develop some kind of tumor, because I've got all this anger
Yeah.
about, X, Y, and Z. So yeah, you bring up some really, really good points there.
Yeah.
Um, so we've been going for a little over an hour, and I wanted to know if you wanted to leave the guests with anything, a message for anybody that's listening now or later, and then we'll have you leave with a song.
How about live, love, laugh, and be happy? I mean, love and happy and stuff. And my motto is, if I can sing a little song every day, it's like it's like I take a tranquilizer and everybody else gets a little nicer. If you can sing a little song, and I do. I sing, I write songs, I'm writing a book, I'm doing everything I can to be more positive. And if shadow comes up, boy, I'm there to deal with it, because I know once I've dealt with it, uh, I'm a lot happier. I'm a happy, happy camper.
That's amazing. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, do you want to play the song we talked about earlier for everybody?
Yeah, yeah. This is from Jason Mraz, and
So if I get kicked
he
off,
just
guys, good night.
yeah. I don't think they'll copyright us, but I sing a lot of his stuff. When I look into or a beautiful much they hold, just like those old stars. I see that you've come so far to be right where you are. How old is your soul? I won't give up on us, even if the skies they get rough. I'm giving you all my love, and I'm still looking up. You're needing your space to do some navigating. I'll be here eagerly waiting to see what you find. 'Cause even if the stars, they burn, some even fall to the earth, we've got a lot more to learn, and God knows we're worth it. No, I won't give up. I don't want to be someone who walks away so easily. I'm here to stay and make the difference that I can make. Our differences, they do a lot to teach us how to use the tools and gifts we've got. Yes, we've got a lot at stake. And in the end, you're still my friend. At least we did intend for us to work. We didn't break, we didn't bend. We had to learn how to bend without the world caving in. Had to learn what I've got, what I'm not, and who I am. And I won't give up on us, even if the skies, they get rough. I'm giving you all my love, and I'm still looking up, still looking up. I won't give up on us. God knows we're tough enough. We've got a lot more to learn, and God knows we're worth it. No, we won't give up on us, even if the skies get rough. I'm giving you all my love, and I'm still looking up.
Yay! Thank you so much. It was so beautiful. I think I got a little bit choked up there too.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you
Oh,
so much. We
I
need
get
more
choked up.
music. We need
Thank
way
you,
more
honey.
music.
This was
So,
fun.
yeah, well, we'll have to do it again. And thank you, everybody, for if you want to come back on again. I would love to hear more from you. And maybe the internet for both of us will be better. I don't know. I think we're being messed with. But, anyways, thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Everyone who was in the chat and participated. I didn't say hello to everyone. I'm sorry. I'm still very new at this, and this is an even newer platform for me. But I thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much, Susie, for sharing your beautiful voice and music and story. And yeah, everyone have a wonderful evening and a wonderful Easter and a wonderful weekend. And really appreciate everyone who showed up. Okay, we're gonna leave. So, bye, everybody.